Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host, Paula Taylor, and this is episode 77. So I do want to let you know that there are two virtual DFE activation classes coming up that I've scheduled. You can go to my website and learn more about those. There's the Intro to DFE, which includes the Emerald activation. That's the first class. That's where you want to start if you haven't had an Emerald activation. That class is coming on January 13th. I think it's 5:30 to 7:30. That'll be Mountain Standard Time. That's a Zoom course, so you can take that from anywhere. It'll be a live interactive course with that activation. And I've done activations over Zoom and got pretty much the same or very similar responses from people in terms of how powerful they felt that they were, as they were, the people that I've done kind of in being in person. So not being able to be in person is not a detriment when it comes to energy work. And in fact, sometimes being in that virtual space can actually amplify the energy. So if you've already done an Emerald activation and you're interested in an Amethyst activation, that class will be coming on January 16th. That's a Sunday, and that will be from 2 to 4. So you can go to my website, go to the book online page, learn more about those. If you're not on the email list, I did post that email on this Facebook page so you can read more about that. And you can always reach out to me with questions. And then my second announcement tonight is that the podcast I mentioned last week, the Sacred Rebel podcast with Kristen Quattlebaum, that podcast is now live. You can find it by searching Sacred Rebel at any of the places where you get your podcasts. It was a really good, deep conversation that she and I had about sound and moving energy, and I recommend that you listen to that when you get a chance. Tonight we're going to talk about calling our energy home. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this came to me, and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty of it, and then we're going to do a really good meditation for this tonight. So I've been seeing, as I'm sure you all have, tons of messaging about the new year. And I think I talked about this last year. I wrote a blog post about this a couple years ago, and I have a really hard time with this idea of, it's a new year, start all the new things, let go of the past, blah, 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 blah. It just seems it's kind of arbitrary to me. Like, just because we're in a new year doesn't mean that you are ready to start new things. You may be in this process of rebirth that we talked about last week, where you're in a different part of that. You're not in the birth part, the brand new part. Maybe you're still in the labor and the contraction, or maybe you're in your shadow work when all that fear and those metaphorical kind of birthing fluids come up, and you're dealing with that. Maybe you're in that postpartum period where you've already birthed and you're a little bit not sure what to do with yourself and not ready to kind of start new things or think about things in terms of these like new beginnings that everybody talks about with the new year. And what I want to say about that and what it kind of triggers for me is this idea that your growth is organic. Your flow, we talk about flow all the time. Flow is organic. Flow cannot be forced. So be where you are. If you are not in the new year, new you space, that is okay. Wherever you are is exactly where you're meant to be. And if you try to let this outside pressure kind of force you, then you're going to lose your flow. So if you're in if you're in that new year, new you, and you're responding to that and it's all making you feel good, fantastic. That's great. But if you see that stuff kind of like I have been, and you're kind of like, it's just feeling a little off to you. Whenever something feels off to you, it's always a good idea to look into it a little bit more, because sometimes it means it doesn't resonate with you. And sometimes it means it's triggering something that you kind of need to look at. And that can be hard to discern. It takes a little bit of time to kind of learn, like, is this not resonating for me? Is this like triggering some fears and stuff I need to look at? Or maybe both. Sometimes it's not mutually exclusive, as it is so often in this work, kind of things bleed into each other. So I want to talk a little bit more about being where you are. I just said, be where you are. And how do we do that? How can we just be where we are? Because so much of the time we're in discomfort. We're not comfortable where we are. But a lot of that is really because we're not actually in the present moment. when we're focused on the past, when we're focused on the future, we're actually sending energy out of the present moment. We're leaving energy out of where we are in space and time right now, because someday we may all transcend to the point where we recognize that there is no linear time, and everything is one, and there's no separation, and that's kind of what, I think a lot of us feel like we're working toward. But as long as we're in these bodies, in these human forms, in this physical realm where there is time that we experience linearly, the present moment is really all that we have. And that's another thing about that New Year stuff that was kind of irking me a little bit, is this idea that, like, absolutely, I want to be prepared for a new year. I want to be in flow. But if I get too far into that new year, I'm not in the present anymore. I'm in the future. And that starts bringing up kind of worry and planning, and not that you can't plan, not that, again, we live lives, we have to sort of live our lives. But I think it's dangerous to live too far out of the present, to live too far into the future or too far into the past. And that's not to say that we don't look at our past, that we don't have to address the traumas of our past and the triggers that still come up in the present from our past and release those from our body. But then we call that energy back. And I think that's a step that's missing for a lot of us. I think that we leave energy in a lot of places, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. That's what we're going to meditate on a little bit more tonight. So before we get into that, I want to mention the word depletion, because last week we talked about fear, and I used a few different words for fear. Contraction, I used stagnation, and I used holding. And we spent the meditation last week trying to transition out of that fear, that contraction and holding and stagnation, into love, which is expansion, which is flow. Another word for fear is depletion. And I think depletion is the result of fear. Depletion is the result of not being expanded, not being in flow, and not being in the present moment. And that's what flow is. When you're truly in flow, that means that you're occupying your physical space that you're in right now. You're occupying this moment, and you're just flowing. If you're floating down a river, you're just floating down the river, and you might encounter a little obstacle and then you go around it, or whatever happens. If you look at something that's floating down a body of water, a stick floating down a river is not thinking about the falls that are coming up. It's just going with the flow. And in that instance, that stick doesn't get depleted. That's a weird metaphor. I'm not sure that quite works for what we're talking about, but all of the things we talked about last week, contraction and stagnation, those are depleting. And so when I thought about this word depletion, and I thought about what I realized has been kind of happening for the last few weeks, which of course was by intelligent design, divine design, not by my design, is that we've been kind of working through some energetic things in order to get to this kind of building up of energy. So last week, we kind of worked on getting out of contraction and out of stagnation and into flow and into expansion. But there's more to depletion than those things. And that's what I want to talk about this week. This idea that we deplete ourselves by giving away energy, by leaving energy in places. So we're going to talk a little bit about what I mean by that and what I mean by calling home your energy. So I made a little list here of ways that we deplete ourselves by giving away energy or by leaving energy behind. So we talked about energy not moving, that's stagnation. We've talked about contraction, that's another way that energy doesn't move. But we haven't really talked about what happens when the energy's not actually here. The energy's not in our physical field, because again, we're talking about a physical substance. It's not something that most of us can see, but it's a physical substance. So we're talking about sending this spiritual, this physical, energetic matter out of our actual physical space in the form of leaving it in different time periods, or giving it away, or taking on things from people. So that's what I'm going to kind of go through here. So the first thing I thought about when I thought about giving away energy is overcommitment. is those of us who have a hard time saying no, or have a hard time kind of maintaining healthy boundaries. And so we tend to just give and give and give and give and give. And that will absolutely deplete you, especially when you're giving from your own energetic reserves, as opposed to kind of channeling. So that's another way of kind of being in the future. When you are constantly saying yes to things, like if people are asking you, oh, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, and you're saying yes, 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 you're sending your energy out into that event that's going to happen in the future, or into that person who's asking for your help. And if you keep doing that, eventually you're going to start feeling depleted, because you're not, especially if you're not working on flow and all of that stuff. All of these things, again, really work together. The things we talked about last week, what we're talking about now, you know, I make things into topics to try to make them easier to understand and less abstract. But essentially, all of this is kind of part of a whole. All of this is something that works together to keep us healthy and functioning. And so when we are feeling depleted, it's worth looking into why. And so one of the reasons why we feel depleted is because of overcommitment. So another reason we might feel depleted is that we're holding energy for other people. And what I mean by that is that it's not appropriate to hold energy for other people all of the time. It's appropriate to do that in a very specified situation. Like, I'm an energy worker. If you come to me and we have a set time, this is a therapeutic session where we agree as an exchange that you're going to pay me or whatever you're going to do, and I'm going to hold this energy for you so that we can move it around as needed, so that we can release things as needed, so we can call back some of the energy that you've left in different places. That is, of course, absolutely acceptable, but there is a reason that we talk about having an exchange. There's a reason that I'm a professional energy worker who gets paid to do that. And sometimes, especially people who are sensitive, or people who tend to take energy on, sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. Or sometimes we grew up in a family dynamic where somebody had to hold the energy because there was so much that somebody else couldn't take on. And so you agree to take this energy on, whether you realized it or not. A lot of times it's not a conscious decision, and that's not appropriate. Holding energy for someone else does not serve them, and it does not serve you. And that's something that it actually took me a lot of years to realize, that if I'm holding, let's say, your pain for you, so it's easier for you to bear, then what is the impetus for you to change? That pain is there for a reason. And that's hard, especially when you're an empath, when you feel other people's feelings. We want other people to feel okay. And when you can feel that someone's suffering, sometimes it can be really kind of tempting to say, like, oh no, I'll take some of that. I can carry that. I can hold that burden. And that's absolutely depleting. And it's not just depleting for you, it's depleting for the other person that you're holding for. Even though it might take you a little bit of time to kind of wrap your mind around that, as it did for me, you're not serving somebody by holding their energy. Just like you're not serving somebody by giving excess energy, because they need to figure out how to pull that energy in themselves. They need to learn how to tap into that divine flow of energy so that they're not pulling energy from you. You may have heard the term energetic vampire, and that is a term that people use for people who kind of feed off other people's energy. And the reason they do that, it's not necessarily because they're bad people or they're evil. It's because they don't know how to feed themselves. They don't know how to feed from that divine source, so that they don't need energy from you. And you do not owe anyone energy. It is your energy. Again, as long as, we can get into the kind of semantics of how everything is one and there's no separation, but most of us are not living in that evolved of a state. So your energy is your energy. And if you are feeling depleted, that's because you are leaving energy somewhere. That's because energy is not moving right in your own system. And probably, usually it's probably a combination, that you're kind of leaving energy in places or giving it away. So the last thing I want to say is something that I kind of already mentioned, is this idea of leaving mental and emotional energy in a time other than the present. So if you're really focused on the past, if you are somebody who is kind of telling yourself a story, about how your past was, or if you're somebody who's still really triggered by your past traumas, even if you don't know that, which a lot of people don't, there is actual physical energy in that timeline, in that past, in your body of the past, in your mind of the past. And when you think about things like regrets, you're sending mental energy to your regrets and emotional energy to your regrets. You're sending physical, again, because mental and emotional energy is physical energy. This is all physical energy that's represented in our bodies. So it's absolutely appropriate to look at the past, to look at traumas of the past. But part of releasing the past is actually calling that energy back to you. It's not enough to understand, oh, this is what happened in this situation, and maybe giving your inner child at that time love or whatever, however it is that you do this healing. Then you've got to call that energy back to your present self. You've got to kind of reintegrate that timeline into the present so that it's serving you in the only moment which exists, which is this moment right now. And the same thing about the future. I'm kind of a worrier and a planner. And so I think I spend a lot of time putting energy into the future. And what happens when you do that is that we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And actually, I tell this story in my book where I talk about how I had this experience of, I was trying to figure out if there was something I could do to be able to carry a pregnancy, because my son kept trying to come to me, and then his spirit would be with me, and I would be pregnant for a little while, and then I would miscarry and his spirit would be gone. And it was really painful for both of us, especially because we could communicate. And so I had this experience where I connected to that divine source. I call it hooking into God. And I said, this was right after my son had to leave again, and I had a miscarriage. And I was like, what can I do? How can I make this happen? And I was sent this vision, and it's hard to explain, but it was kind of like it happened in like an instant. It happened in the present moment, but I was able to see all these different timelines. And in no timeline was my son actually going to come to me. And so in that situation, I had to let that go. But we don't have that view most of the time. And sometimes when I've checked in, when I'm in that really connected state, another time I was like, should I do this? Should I not do this? It was about a fertility treatment, and I didn't really want to do it, but I felt like I was kind of being called to. And the answer I got that time from my divine source was, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. And that just blew my mind. And I was like, how is that possible? You're omnipotent. You're omniscient. Like, how do you not know? And the answer to that is because there's so much free will involved. There's all these different people involved. So you might see every possible outcome, but you don't know which one's actually going to happen. You don't know which timeline you're going to end up in. If you believe in the multiverse and you think that there's different timelines happening all the time. So spending a lot of time, a lot of mental and emotional energy focused on the future actually sends energy to the future. And you may be sending energy to a timeline that's not even going to happen. So that doesn't really serve you. So that's another place where we can call energy back. So essentially, when I'm talking about calling our energy home, our energy deserves to be home. I talked about that a little bit already. Our energy deserves to be with us in this physical body, in this auric body, this etheric body, in these energetic bodies that we are currently occupying. That is our energetic home. And our energy deserves to be here. And yes, there's going to be temporary situations, where we give energy. But part of the reason we do this spiritual work is to learn how to give energy, not from our own personal energetic space, but from that divine energy that flows through us. And again, yes, everything is that underneath, but in this kind of life that we're living, we do have a physical container. We have a body. We have energetic bodies. We have chakras. All of those things are our personal energy. And when we call our energy home to those areas from these other places that we've left it, it powers us up. It allows us to be more in flow and less stagnant and more expanded and less contracted. And so then we function better. We function better in our daily lives. We feel more fulfilled. We have more physical energy. It's really important to allow our energy to come home where it belongs. And that means that it's not projected into the past or the future. It's not given away to hold space for others unless it's done with intention for an intentional period, as I mentioned before. And we're not squeezing out our own energy to make room for other people's energy, because that's what happens when we hold energy for other people. That's what happens when you put your needs aside and serve someone else's needs instead of your own. There's not enough room for all of that because you're not expanded. When you're taking on energy, you're depleting yourself, you're contracted, you're stagnant. When we get to a point, that's how we learn to do energy work. I have to be expanded enough to allow this energy in and out and to keep myself in flow so that when I'm giving an energy work session, I'm not just giving my own energy. In fact, I want to be completely out of the way. My ego, my little self is gone. And I am just connected to that divine flow of energy. And that's kind of what we're going for in this spiritual work. One of the reasons I got into this and started even doing the show and wrote my book is because energy work is everything. I'm a professional energy worker and I studied energy work. But everything you do is energy work. Whether you realize it or not, sending mental and emotional energy, that's energy work. Taking somebody's energy on, that's energy work. And so learning how to work with that energy so that you serve not just yourself, because you can't serve others until you serve yourself. And you are divine. So serving yourself is divine. When you get into that space of flow, when you get out of stagnation, when you call your energy home to where it belongs, you power yourself up to serve in the way you're meant to serve, as opposed to serving in these ways that are kind of contracted and fearful and stagnant. Holding somebody's energy is they can't move their energy and you're not moving their energy if you're holding it. That word holding is right in there. This is all about flow. This is all about expansion. And we have to get the clarity to know how to do these things. And that's why I do this show. That's why I do the work that I do. All right. So I think I'm just looking at my notes because I got way off onto several tangents tonight. And I keep telling myself, I'm just going to stop making notes. I'm actually on the last page of the notebook I started when I did this show 77 shows ago when I started making notes. And I thought, oh, maybe this is the time I should stop keeping notes, but they just make me feel all warm and fuzzy in my plannery self, my worry about the future and what happens when I get to that point where I forgot what I was saying and I don't have anything to remind me. Maybe it's time to be more in flow with that. Maybe it's time to step out of my comfort zone in that way. And that's why I'm so transparent on the show about what I'm going through and what I'm doing, because I've been doing this for a long time and I'm actually pretty good at it. But you can get there too. And even though I'm pretty good at it, it doesn't mean I don't struggle, and it doesn't mean I don't have the same concerns and worries, and I don't give my energy away and leave it in the past and leave it in the future. That's why we do this work together. That's why we're going to do a meditation tonight together to call our energy home. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the meditation. And I want to give credit because the first time I did this type of meditation, it was actually a sleep meditation that I listened to that was by Caroline Myss. That's MYSS. And she's a pretty famous medical intuitive author, teacher. And I have never been able to find this. I've tried to send it to people a few times because I really loved this meditation. And I don't know if it's whatever happened to it. I had it recorded somewhere and then I looked on YouTube and I couldn't find it. But essentially, this sleep meditation was one of the things she said in this. This was a meditation to prepare you for sleep. She introduced to me this idea of calling your energy home, of calling it back from the places that you left it unintentionally a lot of times, calling it back from the past, calling it back from the future, and really coming into the present moment before you go to sleep so that you're fully present, so that you're fully charged up, so that you're really getting restful sleep. And I thought this was a really good meditation to do. This is our last show of the year. And as much as I want to avoid the New Year woo stuff, it is the last show of the year. And why not go into the new year powered up? Last week we powered up our flow by kind of stepping out of that contraction and stagnation. So now tonight we're going to power ourselves up even more by calling this energy home. And then I was guided as I was kind of making my notes to, I think we're going to do some sound healing as well tonight. I think I'm going to do a little bit of dimensional frequency sound. So if you're interested in that, it's interesting. If you've been watching the show, I've been making dimensional frequency sounds on the show for a long time before I even knew what they were. And so sometimes I'm in these activations and someone will say oh, I think I've heard you do that. And I'm like, yeah, I probably did it on the show, because it moves energy. That's what it's for. It brings in love. That's what we're doing. So the last thing I want to say is that if you want to, in this meditation, I'm going to talk about calling energy back. You can do this as kind of a yearly review, and I may walk you through that, but you don't have to. Again, if that does not resonate for you tonight, you don't have to do that. You don't have to look all the way back through your year. You don't have to be specific about this at all. And that's one of the things that I love about energy work is yes, we can go back to that time when you were 8 years old and some boy knocked your ice cream down and that's stuck in your energetic field. You can get really specific with calling your energy back, but you don't have to. You can just intentionally set this idea that I'm going to call back all of this energy from the past into the present. I'm going to call back all of this energy from the future into the present. And you don't necessarily have to get super specific with it. And if something does come up that's really specific, then that may be something that you want to explore further in the future, either on your own or with the help of an energy worker or a coach or a mental health professional. Sometimes when we do these kind of vague meditations, if something's really sticking out, then that's something that you want to come back to, and you can kind of file that away, or you can sit down and journal about it afterwards. There's a lot of ways to kind of re-explore that. You can repeat the meditation that we do tonight, specifically focused on that one thing. But as always, I encourage you to reach out for help if you need it. If you feel like you're getting really emotional, if you feel like you're getting into something that's really traumatic, then go ahead and ask for help. And you'll be surprised, probably as I was recently when I asked for help, first of all, by how much I needed it and didn't realize it till I finally had it, and by how much energy can get moved when someone else kind of comes into your space and helps you. There's a reason that people do this kind of stuff for a living, and that's to help you sometimes learn to move your energy, or sometimes just hold the space so that you can do it yourself. So let's meditate together. So for this meditation, get settled in whatever way calls to you. You can sit up, you can lie down. If you fall asleep during this meditation, that's completely fine. Just let yourself intuitively be guided to kind of where you feel the most comfortable. And again, if strong emotions come up as we're calling this energy back, let yourself come out of this if you need to. Let yourself move around if you need to. Take deep breaths. If you need to stop, you can always do that. You can come back later. And let yourself kind of stay vague with this if it feels like you're kind of on the edge. You don't have to go to that specific memory or go to that specific worry about the future or that specific person or situation that you've been leaving your energy to. We're just going to be general about this. And that's all that we need when we use intention. Then we don't necessarily need to focus on a specific. So once you get comfortable, take 3 deep oxytocin breaths, drawing that breath in through the belly, in through the nose and into the belly. Really sighing that out, letting that audible ha sound come out. Move your body in any way you'd like to. Again, we're trying to stick with flow here rather than stagnation. So if you feel like you need to move around a little bit before you get settled, let your body lead the way. Let your intuition lead the way. And then feel yourself come settled into the body. Take a nice deep breath into any areas of tension you feel like you're holding, any stagnation, any area of energy that's not moving. If you're not sensing subtle energy, that's fine. Focus on discomfort or pain or tension. These are all places where things are not moving as well as they might be. And don't let any judgments come up here. Just breathe into those areas. You can move around again a little bit. We're just getting really settled in, coming into the present moment. When we check in with our bodies, when we're in touch with our bodies, that means we are in the present. Our bodies are always in the present moment. So if you're checking in with your body just as it is right now, you are checking in with the present moment. If you're feeling the sensations in your body just as your body is right now, then you're coming into the present moment through your body. It's a great tool we have to access the present moment, checking in with the body, being present in the body, remembering that we have a body. Maybe you've been in your mental space all day. So let your awareness come down into the body now. On your next inhalation, allow the crown chakra, that top of the head, to open and breathe in that beautiful golden divine light that we connect to every week. Let it flow through your head and neck, through your chest and back and belly. And then as you breathe out, sigh that energy down through your hips and your pelvis, through your legs and knees, your ankles and feet. Let that flow of energy come in from the top of your head and flow down into the earth, connecting you to both that divine energy as well as that rich earth energy that supports us. Coming again fully present into this flow of energy that's always here, but we tend to not notice it when we're not in the present. So just spend a minute, if you'd like, take a couple more deep breaths as you breathe in, draw that energy down, tap into that flow that's already there of energy that flows down from the head and into the earth. Just letting yourself get fully present here. Letting yourself come into the body and out of that mental space. Calling the energy first from the mental space into the physical body, into the belly, into the hips and the pelvis, into the knees and the feet and the earth itself, which is an extension of our body when we allow it to be. And one more time, calling your energy out of the mental space and back into the physical body, into your heart, into your belly and your hips and your legs and your feet, your arms and your hands, coming fully present now into the body, into the heart, connected to the earth, connected to that divine flow of energy. And now as you're ready, I want you to call back with intention any energy that you've left in the past. You can be completely general with this, just the past in general. If you'd like to make this a year-end meditation, you can focus specifically on this past year. You can focus more specifically on the past few days or even few hours. But you don't have to qualify this. You don't have to specify here. You can just say, I call in energy that I've left in the past. I call this energy home. And if you'd like, you can say it out loud to give it more power. I am calling home any energy that I've left in the past. And notice how that feels. Notice if you feel a difference in your body. I can feel a shift as I call that energy back in. I can feel things kind of realigning in my body. I can feel parts of my body drawing that energy in and thanking me for bringing that energy back to where it's meant to be, back to its home, back to my body. And again, call back any energy that you've left into the past. Call it home to your body now, to your present body, to your present being. And just take some deep breaths here. Continue to allow that intention to pull this energy home, to call it home. Anything you've left in the past, even if it was unresolved, even if it's something that you didn't get closure on, just call that energy back. It doesn't need to be there anymore. It serves you the most in this present moment. It's not serving that past moment, being back there, being stuck there, being stagnant there. The flow of this energy, even past energy, is meant to be in the present. It's not meant to be left in the past. And just let yourself be with that for a moment or two. Take one nice big oxytocin breath, and as you breathe out, ground that energy down into the earth. Let yourself feel connected, letting go of anything that's no longer serving you for the highest good. Just allowing that flow of energy that's coming in through the top of the head, that cycle of energy, to refresh this energy that we've called in from the past. This is beautiful, fresh energy that can serve us in this moment and in all present moments going forward. And now let's focus on the future. Let's call back any energy we've left in the future. That mental energy, that worry, that planning. Call all of that energy back into the present moment. It will serve you better in the present moment than it will by leaving it in a future that hasn't happened, that may never happen. Call that energy home to you now. And you can say that out loud if you like. I call back any energy I've left in the future to the present moment. I call it home to my body in this moment, to my energetic fields in this moment, to the present. And just let that intention build a flow of this energy that you've projected into the future that's been stuck there. Let it flow back into the present. And notice how that feels. Notice if your body feels different. Notice if some of that tension that you've been holding on is maybe starting to melt even slightly. Notice if you're feeling calmer and more centered, more settled. Maybe your thoughts are slowing down a little bit as you call this energy in. And again, recognizing that this energy is meant to flow in the present moment. It's not meant to be in the future. So one more time, call back that energy that you've left in the future. Call it home to the present moment where it will serve you, where it serves the highest good. And then take a nice deep oxytocin breath, drawing in that fresh, beautiful, divine energy, and then sighing out anything that's no longer serving you. This energy we've called in from the future is fresh and beautiful and divine and serves you in this present moment and all present moments moving forward. And then I'd like you to focus on any energy that you've given away to another person, to a situation, to a job. Any energy that you've given away, call that back home. That energy needs to be home with you. It serves everyone for the highest good when it is home with you in this present moment. And you can say that out loud if you'd like. I call home any energy I've left outside of my energetic field. I call home any energy I've given away that will serve me better in my energetic home, that will serve the highest good in my energetic home. And notice any shifts here in your body, in your mind, in your emotional field. One more time, really focus on calling that energy back into your energetic body, your present moment, your home. And then take a deep breath in, draw that beautiful divine light in through your head and down through the body. And sigh out anything that's no longer serving you or the highest good. Every bit of that beautiful energy you've called back serves you and others the best now in this present moment, from your body, from your home, from your present, and all present moments going forward. And then the last part of this intentional work is to focus on any energy that's in your field now that you're holding for someone else or for another situation. Holding that energy is not serving that person, it's not serving you, it's not serving the situation. And so this energy we let go with love. So as we have been, just direct that energy with your intention down into the earth where it'll be recycled for the highest good. The earth is a beautiful way to do that. Takes that energy and uses it for what it is needed. So gift that energy to the earth. You don't have to give it back to the person. You don't have to look at what that energy looks or feels like. If you think it feels kind of dark or like it's not serving you, just send it down into the earth, where it will serve the highest good. And you can imagine kind of going through your energetic field around your body, within your body, like you're just collecting. Maybe it's like you have a little basket and you're collecting little energetic apples. Any energy that's not yours, any energy you've picked up, you've been holding for someone else, for another situation. A lot of this is unconscious. We do this unknowingly. So there's no need to look too closely at this. Just take your basket full of these energetic apples and offer it to the earth. Let it go out of your field into the earth to be recycled for the highest good. And you can say out loud if you like, I release anything I'm holding on to that is not mine, with love for the highest good. And one more time, take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Draw that beautiful divine light in and down through the body, and then sigh out anything that's not serving you. Let go of anything that's left here. And notice how you feel. Notice maybe you feel cleaner or fresher. Maybe you feel lighter and less heavy. Maybe you feel more heavy and relaxed. Maybe you don't notice a difference, and that's completely fine. Just pay attention to how you feel in the next few moments here. And if you'd like now, place your hands on your heart. You don't have to, but if that feels good to you, you can do that. And just affirm with me out loud. I call my energy home to my heart space. You can release your hands if you'd like, or leave them there. And one more time, now we're going to call energy out of the mind space, that vibrating, high-pitched thought and worry, those things that keep us in the past or the present, those old beliefs that no longer serve us. They all kind of hang out energetically in the mind space. So as you hear this next bit of sound, just focus on the mind space and focus on releasing anything that no longer serves you. Just by breathing in the way that we have been, by directing it down and into the earth to be recycled for the highest good. Release all of those old judgments, those old beliefs, whatever's no longer serving you in the mind space. And then come into the body, bring your awareness into the body, maybe into the belly, that kind of core area of your body, or your hips. Place in the body that makes you feel really anchored. And then affirm with me out loud, I call home my beautiful divine energy to my beautiful divine body. I call my energy home to my body. And then release your hands. Just sit in this shift for a moment. Notice how you feel. And now call your energy home to your entire being, to your mind, your heart, your body, to the energetic space around your body, those energetic fields that are your personal spaces of energy. You can say out loud, I call my energy home to my energetic space, to my energetic field. And do this with the intention of bringing flow into all of these spaces, into your energetic spaces, into the chakras, into the body and the mind and the heart space. Just seeing your entire being now powered up with this energy you've called home, flowing, glowing. Let yourself just sit in this energy for the last few moments here. Recognize that you deserve to be fully powered up, that you deserve to be present in each moment with a full arsenal of beautiful divine energy at your disposal. Recognize that you deserve to have flow in all of your energy, in your physical energy, in your mental energy and emotional energy, in that spiritual energy. That beautiful divine flow is always accessible. We just have to get out of our own way and allow it in. We have to call back that energy home to our divine self as it's meant to be. Take a few last breaths here if you'd like. Move your body very slowly with reverence for the work you've just done. Notice how you feel. Notice any shifts that have happened. and recognize that this is our natural state, being present, being in flow, being served by that beautiful divine energy that is what we are made of. Let yourself feel that now. The truth of your identity is found in the present moment, in this flow of being fully present with that divinity of who you are. Go ahead and move yourself around. Take any last deep breaths as you'd like to, and as you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. Have a powered up and flowing rest of your week. And I will see you next week for Wind Down Wednesday.